Yes, my people, I don't come again to update our mindset. Right now, the secret about Tinubu and the war where they go on for Niger, it don't fall out. Yes, now. And I know say as they hot, as I dey updated on a daily basis. Now, so me I dey bring am here. My fans, all of us, they updated on a daily basis. So right now, I want to bring up this video. Then after you watch this video, and then you go know the reason why Tinubu they try deploy soldiers to Niger. So right now, I want to bring up this video. As they bring up this video, they watch them. Make sure say you go like, comment, and share, so that people never see them. They go see what they go on. They go see the secret how they come out one after the other.
Following the coup in Niger and the threat of military intervention if they don't quickly relinquish power, the threat is no longer a matter of if, but a matter of when. This is because Nigerian troops are now stationed near Niger to enforce a no-fly zone over Niger. Why is Tinubu bent on military intervention in Niger? Let's see 4 main reasons why he is doing it. Number 1. Out of the 4 reasons, this one might be the major motivation to invade Niger. When the country is at war and Tinubu is still fighting for legitimacy, which might still take a few months to resolve, going to war will trigger Section 135 subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, which will make him stay in power for up to 4 years. It says, if the Federation is at war in which the territory of Nigeria is physically involved and the President considers that it is not practicable to hold elections, the National Assembly may by resolution extend the period of 4 years mentioned in subsection 2 of this section from time to time, but no such extension shall exceed a period of 6 months at any one time. Many people are not paying attention. These people are desperate. They can go to great lengths to stay in power. The military intervention that is already underway with the deployment of Nigerian troops near the northern border with Niger to enforce a no-fly zone. This is an act of war. But that's not the first. The first one happened when he authorized the disconnection of electricity supply to Niger. Yes, this action is also an act of war. Despite the treaty that Nigeria signed with Niger in the 60s on the use of waterways and River Niger, and the fact that 70% of their electricity supply comes from Nigeria, you know what it means for a country to pull out of a treaty without warning. It means that country can't be trusted to abide by agreements and treaties. Although he doesn't have the power to initiate war with another country without the express approval of the National Assembly, he has already taken actions to that effect. Many might argue that boots are not yet on the ground and he doesn't need any approval from National Assembly to move troops within the country. The truth is that in order to enforce a no-fly zone over Niger, the Air Force will need to intercept aircrafts in the air within their airspace, which might result in their firing a weapon. What if someone gets hurt and they retaliate? There are more than 300 Nigerians in IDP camps in Niger Republic. Instead of finding ways to resettle these people back to their homes in Nigeria, they are actively trying to wage war in a country that is hosting 300,000 Nigerian citizens. How about solving the problems that push these Nigerians to run to Niger Republic in the first place? You can't solve your security challenges, but you want to go and fight in another man's country. Even in Abuja, the seat of power, there are people living in IDP camps. They can't resettle them to their homes, but they want to go on an adventure in another man's land. There's no single benefit for Nigeria in this their adventure. Instead, we are losing money. We don't even have the money for this kind of experiment. Nigeria is simply broke. Look at the effect of the border closure. Long lines of trucks and coaches that will normally bring revenue to customs. Niger is a poor country. Sanctioning them will impoverish their people more. Besides, many of them support the military that took over power. Look at this banner, Abat la France, which means down with France in English. So why are they crying more than the bereaved? Why the focus on Niger? This kind of attention, Mali, Burkina didn't receive them when the military took over power there. Are they aware that Russia is backing some of them? Although the Russians have denied backing Niger or even interested in what is going on, We know their antecedents. We shouldn't take their statements seriously. When they deny something, the next day they do the complete opposite. Remember what they said before the invasion of Ukraine, only to invade them a few days later. There's a reason Mali, Burkina, and Guinea have all declared support for Niger, and they are willing to put boots on the ground in case there's military intervention in Niger. Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso recently met Putin in Russia. No one knows what they discussed. Burkina and Mali have all dropped French as their official language, so there's serious resentment by their citizens against France. There's presence of Russians in Mali. Traore even eulogized Putin that they can buy whatever they want from Russia, unlike the West that gives conditions and in some cases they won't even sell to you.
Ils ne refusent rien. En fait, tout ce qu'on veut acheter, la Russie accepte nous vendre parce que ce n'est pas le cas avec d'autres pays.
I mentioned the Trans-Saharan pipeline to pipe our gas to Europe. Why should we leave Russia to do the whole thing?
This brings us to the next reason Tinubu wants to invade Niger. Yes, for economic reasons, the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline moving gas from Nigeria through Niger, Algeria, and crossing the Mediterranean to Europe will bring Nigeria's gas to Europe. But at the Nigerian military against it, they will earn money if the pipelines passes through their country. The entire region is very volatile. Very few investors will take the risk to lay gas pipelines across the restive region. That's why Morocco proposed an alternative route to Nigeria. Besides, whichever route they take to bring the gas to Europe, Russians don't like competition. The major reason they invaded Ukraine was because the huge gas reserves off the Ukrainian coast was about to be mined by oil and gas conglomerates. With the situation on ground there, no mining can take place for now. Russia, having been cut off from supplying gas to Europe, they won't allow Ukraine to do that either. Coming back to Nigeria and looking at the economic situation on ground, Nigerians urgently need more gas pipelines spread across many cities as alternative to petrol. Whether it's CNG, LNG, we need them now to sustain our economy instead of selling gas to other people. So instead of wasting money in the guise of restoring democracy in another country, why not use the money to better the lives of Nigerians who own the money in the first place? We need serious investment in road infrastructure. Look at our federal roads. How can this kind of roads exist in Nigeria and you're talking about restoring democracy in another country? This is what causes military coup in the first place, when elected politicians don't deliver dividends of democracy and good governance to the people. People will simply lose hope in democracy. Yes, you can't give what you don't have. Someone that committed a political coup and rigged an election is talking about restoring democracy in Niger. Is this real? Many African politicians don't obey the rules that guide democracy. They don't respect the separation of powers between the different arms of government. They see themselves as kings that everyone must be subservient to them. They are very reckless and lawless. They waste money on frivolities while their people suffer. The money spent by National Assembly members to fuel their cars in their convoys on a daily basis can build homes to resettle thousands of people living in IDP camps across Nigeria. That's just for one day. Imagine what the yearly budget can achieve if directed to infrastructure that will benefit the people, instead of wasting them to fuel cars to take one man to work. What about the executive arm? Let's even leave politicians because we already know the kind of waste they incur on a daily basis. Why should the Inspector General of Police be using long convoys just to go to work? What about the police commissioner in a state, or a colonel, or brigadier general? You see them with their insignia in full display on their cars. These are security personnel that should be riding in unmarked cars to blend into the society like any other person. Drive yourself to work or maybe get a driver if you can afford one. It is simply a waste to be driving in convoys and blaring sirens all the time when there is no emergency. That's why the money doesn't get to the security personnel that deserve them. The low-ranked officers are always at the front line. They face more risks. Their lives are more exposed to danger. At the end of the day, they are paid peanuts compared to what senior officers earn. In Western countries, the difference between the salaries of a low-ranked officer to a colonel or a commissioner is small, unlike the huge gulf in Nigeria. This is why many have resigned from the army in the past few years. The compensation is not commensurate to the amount of work they do. That's why they transfer the anger and frustration to citizens who have nothing to do with their problems. That's why they collect money from motorists on the highway. Not that it's an excuse, but the government should do better. The third reason is corruption. Military interventions cost money. All the interventions Nigeria did through ECOMOG in the 90s, they will allocate billions of naira or even dollars. They will never account for them in the end. It will be an avenue for them to steal money and launder them to foreign countries where it will be used to develop their economies. While Nigeria and Africa, where the money comes from, continues to be at the pre-developmental stage, not even developing. How many centuries will it take us to become a developed economy? When we build single roads and by the time we come back a few years later to build the one adjacent to it, the first one has completely deteriorated. So we are running around in circles. In 500 years, we will still be doing the same thing. That means we will never achieve developed status. Why not map out all the roads in a city and build all of them at once within 2 years? Yes, get a loan, award the contracts to many contractors, and focus on maintenance and repaying the loans. That way, our streets will look serene, not dusty. The government can now force all landlords to paint their homes. Everywhere will be looking clean. We will also reduce the incidence of malaria because all drainages are covered. They know the right thing to do, but they won't do it because there's more money to be made by constructing single roads. They don't even do maintenance. They allow the road to deteriorate completely so that they can rebuild it for more money. The fourth reason is because Tinubu wants to impress France and United States. By fighting their proxy war, he feels he might get their full support. As someone that rigged the election and has legitimacy problems, which of course was the fear of many before the campaigns, that the West having a file on Tinubu might help them to get whatever they want from Nigeria. So in other words, he will work in their interest first before that of Nigeria. Remember that immediately after the coup in Niger, the European Union and France stopped all funding and aid to Niger. The Nigerians retaliated by blocking uranium exports to France and the United States. They've even gone as far as telling them to vacate their military bases in Niger. So despite their being very poor and the sanctions already biting, they can't even pay workers' salaries. They are still insisting that they be left alone as a sovereign nation to solve their problems by themselves. Why will an outsider intervene in this situation if not for ulterior motives? Why can't the countries who have military bases in Niger do the work themselves? Why involve Nigeria? Will the United States invade Mexico if the military took over power there? Will France do it in Portugal? Why is Niger different? That's why the northerners, who by the way will be the most affected if the situation ever escalates, they should make a statement through their representatives in the National Assembly to make sure that they do not authorize any invasion of any country if he ever decides to escalate the situation. Besides, ECOMOG wouldn't be battling only Niger. Guinea, Mali, Burkina, even Chad might commit boots on the ground to defend them. And it will worsen the security situation in northern Nigeria because Niger is the only buffer we have between us and Libya. Also, many Nigerians living near the border with Niger can trace their ancestry to Niger and vice versa. Even Buhari's father was from Niger. Will he support Nigeria going to war with his father's country? A poor country that will have nothing to gain from. It's very hard to see a northerner in support of a military intervention in Niger. Even in the military, considering the leak of deployment of troops, which ordinarily cannot happen without the express approval of top military hierarchy. Let them use the money to solve our numerous problems, save our democracy, observe rule of law and human rights, before talking about restoring democracy somewhere. Thanks for watching.